Hi, my name is Bernardi. I'm the ATV Marketing Director for Can-Am, and I'm going to talk to you about the rear suspension of the new DS450. The objective was to achieve the lowest unsprung weight, as well as another objective was to centralize the masses as much as possible. What you want to do is to have the least weight possible in the rear end of the bike, because that's where it is the furthest away from the center of gravity. What you want to have an agile bike in the air and a bike that corners quickly is to have the masses as close as possible. You can think about it like having a big barbell with two weights on the extremity. It is very difficult to start rotating it the further the masses are away, but it's also once they start moving, it's very difficult to stop this motion. But if you bring the masses in the center, you're going to move this very swiftly. You're going to have no problem moving it back and forth. So that's the whole goal of having the mass the most centralized possible. And the way to achieve that is to reduce the weight of all the components that are far away from the center of gravity, like the rear axle. So our engineers worked to reduce the weight of the rear axle and came up with this idea of using a tube, a hollow rear axle, instead of a shaft. We all know that in bending and torsion, that the material in the middle of the shaft is really not very used for. So we basically took out 3/4 of an inch for the width of the for the length of the axle out in weight savings. That's over 9 pounds saved just by using a shaft instead of using a tube, instead of a shaft. But the engineers didn't stop there. They realized that the longer the shaft, the heavier it is. And steel is very heavy, so how about shortening the shaft and using the aluminum hubs to extend and reach to the wheel? So that's why they designed those, call it the spider hub. It looks like a spider, but it's basically extending the reach of the fingers of the hub, and basically replacing for about 1.5 inches instead of using steel, using lighter aluminum instead. The brake disc carrier is also in aluminum, as well as the sprocket hub is in aluminum, and for a first time, the sprocket itself is aluminum as well. So everything that could be done in aluminum in the rear end of the DS450 is made of aluminum for reducing the unsprung weight by about 9 pounds. So that makes a big difference, because what you have is a very lightweight rear end that will stay in contact with the ground for optimal traction. It will not leave the ground, will not bounce the bike up, and it will also be very easy to calibrate and to tune with the suspension. When you're working with a lightweight suspension, you're doing miracles with calibration.